13 years ago, on September 11th, 4 commercial aircrafts were hijacked by Middle Eastern men in a terrorist plot against the United States of America. 2 of the planes were flown into the World Trade Center in New York. 1 plane hit the Pentagon, and the 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. 3,000 people lost their lives in the largest terrorist attack in the United States. The acts were masterminded by Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, a radical Islamic group with a massive hatred for America and democracy. Shortly after the attacks, President Bush declared a war on terror and sent troops into the Middle East. Then, 10 years later, on May 2nd, a targeted operation was launched by President Obama that killed Osama bin Laden in a firefight between Al-Qaeda soldiers and Navy SEAL operatives in a villa in Pakistan. The takedown of bin Laden has brought some justice to the American people and is a massive step forward towards peace in the Middle East. Bin Laden may be dead, but the war on terror is very much alive. It has been 13 years and there still is no sign of ending this conflict. I think it's about time we put an end to this war once and for all, so America and the world can move forward. This is why I've developed a proposal that will put an end to terrorism and will enlighten the future of the United States as a symbol of peace and democracy. But first, why has America been struggling to win this war? The answer is simple. Our troops are not prepared for guerrilla warfare. If we don't know who our enemy is, then we cannot possibly win. Look at the Vietnam War. When they turned to guerrilla war tactics and started building underground tunnels, they devastated us. The same happened in Iraq. U.S. soldiers were being bombed and attacked by unknown sources, and this brought down soldier morale. There is only one way we can defeat guerrilla warfare and put an end to the war on terrorism, and that's by bombing the whole region of the Middle East. I don't mean bombing through drones or aircrafts. I mean dropping atomic bombs on the whole region. The use of atomic bombs in World War II led to the surrender of the Japanese and saved many lives. Near the end of the war, Japanese forces refused to surrender in the Pacific, fighting to the last soldiers while being bombed at home. An invasion of Japan would have caused the loss of many U.S. soldiers and prolonged the war, causing more casualties than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Within a week of dropping the bombs, Japan surrendered to us. Now we have bombed and attacked Al-Qaeda, and yet they refuse to surrender. I don't see any other choice. We must drop a little boy on Afghanistan. We must drop a fat man on Pakistan and drop one on Iraq and Iran. Only then can we put our worries and fears about Al-Qaeda in the trash. After the bombing, the countries will be devastated economically and in need of aid. So it will only be right for us to step in and take over. We will reconstruct the political structure of the countries as we did in Japan, establishing true democracy. The Taliban will finally be removed, and now that we control the region, we can effectively put any remaining Al-Qaeda members behind bars. In order to encourage capitalism, we will invite corporations and companies like Exxon and Chevron to set up shop in the region. The reconstruction of Japan made the nation an economically stable democracy and friend to the U.S. And that's what we want for the people of the Middle East. After we rebuild the countries with new streets and high-risers, and the corporations have allowed for some economic growth, I suggest that we annex the region as a new state. This way we can ensure that groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban will not emerge again, that we have put out terrorism in the region for good. In order to prevent conflict between the natives of the region and the new American colonists, we will create reservations for the natives to reside and keep their traditions and customs. The annexation will help us economically, bringing down the price of oil, which has been a burden to the American people. It will also create jobs for our citizens. Under U.S. rule, the Middle East will finally have peace and the war on terror will end. Terrorism is evil. The death of innocent civilians cannot go unheard. The American people deserve a resolution to what happened on September 11, 2001, and the U.S. government owes them one. It is time for us to put the war on terror in our rear view mirror and head for a time of peace and tranquility. Drop the little boy because we want peace. Drop the fat man because we want to put an end to terrorism. Drop them because that's the only way we can possibly move on. Removing all U.S. troops from the region will not stop Al-Qaeda. Refusing to stop authoritarian regimes will not stop the Taliban. Only nuclear weapons can and will create peace in the Middle East and put an end to the war on terror. Pause.